Thank you. Good afternoon. In accordance with Sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. My name is Larry Clay, and I'll be chairing today's session. Panel members today are Peter Reid, Paul Gogan, Zahir Bayat, and Nazila West. Our Deputy Secretary Treasurer is Sabrina Salentino. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on as a traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Committee of Adjustment public hearings are now conducted in a hybrid in-person and virtual format. Some applicants and participants will make their submissions in person, and others will participate virtually by electronic means through WebEx. The meetings are also streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel, and anyone wishing to view the hearing may watch on YouTube. Those who want to participate virtually and who have registered in advance will be connecting with their computer or telephone and have the option of participating via video or audio only. When your item is called, you will be unmuted by the moderator. For both in-person and virtual participants, Committee of Adjustment staff will share presentations submitted in accordance with the written submission deadline. People attending in person today who want to receive a copy of the decision of the committee on an application must fill out a decision request card, and those participating virtually need to submit a written request for a decision by email. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, you may be able to appeal the decision to the Toronto Local Appeal Body or, in some limited circumstances, to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government amended the Planning Act and generally removed rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. Only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out in the bottom of the decision of the committee. Today, I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. When the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when you are reaching the 5 minutes. Any presentation or other materials you wish to submit to the committee must have been emailed in advance of the hearing. Staff and committee members cannot accept materials at the hearing. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address. Please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make a presentation to the committee on the application. Then, individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Generally, we call first on speakers in the hearing room and then those participating through WebEx. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have finished their presentation. And when all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent has an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion, and the application will be taken into committee for a decision. Madam Secretary, Deputy Secretary Treasurer, are there any deferral requests for this time slot?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, item number 19, 53 BINSCARTH Road, file number A0356/24TEY. And then we do have item number 24, but that's scheduled for the 3:30 time slot. And that's 265 Symington Avenue, file number A0361/24TEY.
Okay, so we'll deal with that deferral right off the bat. But before that, is there any declarations of interest or concern or conflict from staff or members? No? All right, can we do number 19?
Yes. Through you, Mr. Chair, do you want to just introduce the file and then we
Yes, I was just
deal with
finding it.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, number 19, 53 BINSCARTH Road. This is an application to alter the existing two-story detached dwelling by demolishing the carport and constructing a front two-story addition, also to install a front yard parking pad. The committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 14 photographs of trees in the subject property, covering letter from the agent, and correspondence from the planner of TRCA. And we also have a deferral request from the agent. We have staff reports from Heritage Planning and from Transportation Services, and an advisory report from Ravenna Natural Feature Protection.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. We do have the agent online and no registered speakers for this item.
Okay.
Stephen Lindy, you have been unmuted.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. So we're in receipt of the two staff reports, one from Transportation Services and one from Heritage Planning, both dated June 5th, 2024, and both requesting that the application be deferred. Considering these two staff reports, we are requesting that the Committee of Adjustment please defer the above noted application. Reason would be to address concerns from both Heritage and Transportation Planning staff, and we will require some time to update the drawings, present staff the proposed revised drawings, work with staff from both departments, and obtain an updated zoning notice, and request the Committee of Adjustment to reschedule a new hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's go into committee. Can I get a motion on this deferral? Peter, sorry.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I move deferral of the application to allow the applicant enough time to work with Heritage and Transportation.
Okay, motion to defer, seconder. Mr. Byatt, all in favor? This item is deferred. Okay,
Chair,
we
members of the committee.
go to item 17, A, B, and C. Okay. This application is for 102 Dawes Road. This is requesting a consent to sever the lot into two residential lots, of which one lot will be undersized and to retain an existing easement right-of-way. The application part one is to construct a new two-story ancillary building, one garden suite with a north side integral garage in the rear yard abutting to Dentonia Park Avenue. The existing ancillary detached garage will be demolished. The purpose of parts 2 and 3 is to construct a new three-story detached dwelling with a front covered porch, rear basement walkout, and a rear ground floor deck and a rear third-story balcony. Committee has before a copy of the draft art plan of survey, copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, covering letter from the agent, arborist report from Kuntz Forestry Consulting, planning letter from Design Plan Services. We have staff reports from Engineering Construction Services and Urban Forestry. There's correspondence and support from 114 Dawes Road. There is a 16-signature petition in support from owners, occupants of several addresses on Dentonia and Dawes Road and Goodwood Park Crescent.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent here in person today, and we do have one registered speaker online.
Okay, Mr. Eagleton?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, committee members. Thank you for having me. David Eagleman, associate at Design Plan Services, Inc., 900 the East Mall, Suite 300, and I am here on behalf of the owner.
Great. I think there's someone registered to speak, so we'll need a presentation. Thank you.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, I'll provide a brief presentation. I don't think, I did provide a justification letter that I would hope the committee has had a chance to review. And at this point, I understand there is a registered speaker, but I'm not aware of any concerns or objections from anyone, including any surrounding neighbors, and we have obtained a number of signatures and support. So we have revised the proposal as well in order to satisfy planning staff, and city planning staff have confirmed that they are satisfied with the proposal, and that is indicated by the lack of any report from planning staff noting any concerns or objections regarding this application. We are agreeable to the recommended conditions from Engineering and Construction Services as well as Urban Forestry. And in regards to the proposed consent to sever, the lot is a unique L-shaped lot, And the proposal is really just to sever the existing lot into two separate lots where it really makes sense. And so we're effectively severing off part of the L that fronts onto Dentonia Park Avenue, and that will be a lot that is situated on its own with the new proposed single detached dwelling on it. And the other part of the proposal is to maintain the existing dwelling at 102 Dawes Road, but also propose a two-story garden suite. And the garden suite includes a parking space on the ground floor. There is an existing brick garage where the garden suite will be located. The new garden suite will mostly maintain the existing footprint of the garage. So the rear yard setback, which is the setback measured to the proposed new lot line between the retained and severed lot, is the same as the setback of the existing brick garage. And a number of so that is one of the variances, the rear yard setback of the garden suite. The projection into the required angular plane is coming from that rear lot line. So the projection into the angular plane is the angular plane coming from the proposed severed lot. So the biggest impact that projection will have is on the proposed severed lot, which is part of this application. And in addition to that, the proposed garden suite will abut the front yard of the severed lot. So it won't be abutting the rear yard amenity space of the proposed severed lot. And it's a really different situation as compared to what really the bylaw contemplates with garden suites, because typically garden suites would be in the rear yard abutting another neighbor's rear yard. But in this case, because it's a corner lot, and because we're proposing to sever part of the lot, and that's the dwelling that will be behind the garden suite, it is a unique situation in this case. And there is a large requirement for a 6-meter side yard setback for the garden suite. The intent of that is really to maintain a driveway that can accommodate a parking space, but we are providing a legal size parking space within the garden suite itself. And the existing garage is already at 0 meters to the lot line abutting Dentonia Park Avenue, and it functions as it currently exists. And Transportation Services has expressed no concerns or objections. And regarding the new proposed dwelling, the variances for lot frontage and lot area relate to the severance itself, which I spoke to, and it is my opinion that the severance meets the criteria under Section 5124 of the Planning Act. A number of the other variances are really just a result of the fact that we are severing the lot. So the side yard setbacks, the FSI, the lot coverage, it is going to be a relatively narrow lot, but it is not out of keeping with the existing character of the neighborhood. And from a purely numerical perspective, it's not a large discrepancy from what the bylaw requires in terms of frontage and area. So through you, Mr. Chair, those are my comments. It is my opinion that the variance meets the 4 tests under Section 45(1) of the Planning Act, that the proposed consent meets the criteria under Section 5124, and that this proposal does represent good planning. So I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. I just have a technical question before we hear from the speaker, and it is in respect of variance number 5. You're asking for a height variance of, I think, 9.63. When I was reading your cover letter, you spoke about a proposed dwelling height of 10.54 meters. So I'm a little, the numbers don't line up for me.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, thank you for that question. I can clarify. We revised the proposal after we provided that cover letter, because that cover letter was provided with our original application submission. The city now requires for consent applications a cover letter be submitted. So that that justification letter spoke to the variances as they were originally proposed, and then through the process, through our discussions with planning staff, we revised it and lowered the height. So the notice, we also eliminated a main wall height variance as well. So that cover letter would speak to a main wall height variance that no longer exists. So we did provide an updated cover letter to speak to those revisions to hopefully make it clearer. But I know it can be a little confusing with some.
I didn't, yeah, I don't see an updated letter, but I'm glad you sent it in. So it was just mainly the main difference between originally proposed and what you currently is the height? Main wall and overall height?
Through you, Mr. Chair, correct. The planning staff was satisfied with just bringing the height down and eliminating the main wall height variance.
Okay. All right, thank you. Do we have, oh, Peter, do you have a question?
Just to confirm, the variances we have before us and what was mailed out, those are accurate still?
Through you, Mr. Chair, correct.
Okay, thanks.
Public notices are accurate.
Great.
Okay. Do we have our speaker?
Nardine,
Yeah,
you have been
Nardine.
unmuted.
Hi, my
Hi.
name is Nardine Villalva. I live at 51 Dentonia Park Avenue. And I'm sorry, I didn't know I was supposed to send in anything other than just that form that said I had to click whether I was opposed or whatever.
No,
So I didn't send in anything.
There's no requirement for you to submit anything. You can share with the panel your views now.
Okay, so my biggest concern is the garage, the one that they're going to build, the three-story building, is right by my garage, right? So anything happening there can impact my cars or anything like that. How do I know that if anything happens to my property, who's responsible and how does that get dealt with? There's that. I got a survey when I bought this house, and it shows that the easement went all the way down the property line. But on the survey that they've sent out for this, it doesn't show it. So I'm just wondering about that kind of thing.
Okay.
Right? But my biggest concern is really the impact to my life, because you're building two different buildings right basically in my side yard, right? And one of them is impacting my ability to park my cars, make sure nothing happens to my property or anything like that. So those are my major concerns.
Okay. Thank you. Panel, any questions as we go? Yeah, Peter?
Thanks, Chair. So just to confirm, your garage is accessed from the south, is that right? You're at the end?
Oh, I'm really bad with directions, so I'm just going to say from the alleyway.
Yeah, from the alleyway that's the street below yours.
Yes.
Okay.
I come all the way up and drive in to my backyard.
Straight into your garage.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
And that wall is right there. So when that comes down, my car is parked basically like 2 inches away from that wall. So
Right.
how does that get dealt with?
Okay, we're going to put that to the agent to respond to you. Okay, sir.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, thank you, and I appreciate the neighbors' comments. So, as I'm sure the committee is aware, the access to the neighbors' parking and the parking itself is not on the subject property itself. So theoretically, this should have no impact on the parking. There may be some impacts as a result of construction, but I will discuss this with the owner and advise to work with the neighbor and try and be accommodating to what the neighbor may require. So those are my comments in regards to the parking. It may impact access for a short period of time because of construction, but all construction has to be done in accordance with the city's regulations and requirements, and as such, the construction will take place in accordance with the city's requirements. And whatever the neighbor is entitled to, specifically what they're entitled to access their own property, will not be impacted by this proposal. And again, if it is in some short circumstance, I will advise the owner to try and be accommodating to the neighbor in any manner. But I don't see how it would necessarily impact the neighbor's parking. And in regards to the right-of-way, I will note our survey does indicate the shared right-of-way with 51 Dentonia Park. You can see it on both the submitted survey as well as the submitted R plan. It's just at the front lot line abutting Dentonia Park Avenue, right where the shared lot line with 51 Dentonia Park Avenue is located. It does not extend all the way to the rear. So unfortunately, it's a legal situation. I can't really comment on it. Other than that, the survey shows it, and it only extends for a certain portion along the shared property line. And it does not go all the way to the back. And frankly, even if it did, it doesn't really provide much room for a car to fit there anyway. It seems to be more for pedestrian access, if anything. So those are my comments, Mr. Chair.
And your survey looks like it's dated 2022, right?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right. Any further questions, panel? Peter?
Thanks, Chair. I'm just looking at the severed parcel, the 3-story proposed building, and I know you've got a waiver for your variances, and it looks awfully deep. I'm just wondering, and apparently there's no rear yard setback or length or depth that has come up in your analysis?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do not have zoning waivers. We obtain zoning notices from the city's building department through a ZAP application. So through the zoning notice applications, no such variances were identified, and we rely on the zoning notices received.
Okay. The notices say waiver, just for your information, but thanks for the information. That's good.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you for that comment. I didn't notice that, but I think that perhaps was an error.
Yeah, thanks.
Sabrina, no, there's no waiver on this file, as far as you can see? No.
Let me double check.
While we're doing that, any further questions of the agent?
Through you, Mr. Chair, a zoning notice
Was a notice. Yep, okay. Thank you. All right, let's take this into committee. Who wants to start? Peter will always start.
I can start. Thanks, Chair. I think this makes sense. This is it's a very interesting neighborhood in terms of the lot patterns, and I'd like to commend the agent for the lotting analysis that was done. I think that was thorough, and we don't usually get. We often ask for this type of analysis, but it's rare that it's this comprehensive. So I think that the lotting analysis gave me comfort that the consent to sever is appropriate for the area. As I said, I do think the new 3-story building looks quite large, but the variances that are being requested, I think, are minor. And maybe it's just the zoning in this particular neighborhood is slightly more permissive than others. But for that and for the garden suite, I think those variances are minor in terms of the impacts of the angular plane, and I appreciated the explanation on the 6-meter setback, and I think that intent is met. So I think this is supportable.
Okay. Anyone else? Is it here?
Just to echo to some degree what Peter has just said, this is a very unusual lot again. You know, the L shape, very narrow, and so when you have a situation like this, the question if you have to be creative and make use of the space. It's maybe vying for the narrowest lot in the city at some point in time. But I think it's effectively using a space that otherwise would be sitting and unused, perhaps. So I think it's a supportable application as is. I didn't find any variances that I have concerns about. So I think it's a supportable one as well.
All right, just generally, I would agree with both of you. I think it is a good application. And I would also just note that this is, again, looks like about a 5-minute walk away from Danforth and maybe a 10-minute walk away from Subway. So these, in my view, are the neighborhoods and the locations where we should be encouraging additional density and gentle intensification into existing established neighborhoods. So I'll look to someone for a motion. Peter?
Sure. Thanks, Chair. For the reasons I said before, I move approval of the application subject to development engineering conditions and the series of urban forestry conditions.
Okay. Motion to approve of those conditions, seconded by Mr. Byatt. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee, staff. Great day.
All right, we move on to item number 18, which is 41 Darcy Street and 133 to 147 Beverley Street and 370 Dundas Street West. This again is another request to obtain consent to sever the property into 2 residential lots. The purpose is to retain the existing 3-story detached building at 41 Darcy Street and the existing 4 residential buildings consisting of 2 detached dwellings and 2 pairs of semi-detached dwellings with varying heights, and a total of 27 dwelling units, and 11 dwelling units will be maintained and unaltered. Committee has before it a copy of the draft R plan of survey, copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 4 photographs of trees on the property, cover letter from the agent, presentation material similarly from the agent. We have comments from community planning, heritage planning, and development engineering services. There is correspondence in concern from 147 Beverley Street, Unit 1. And we do have some folks who want to speak to this item.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online and 1 registered speaker here in person.
Okay, great. Mr. Nelligan.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is David Nelligan, N-E-L-I-G-A-N, here as a solicitor on behalf of the owner, Toronto Community Housing Corporation.
Okay, so we do have someone here to speak on this item, so we'll need a short presentation, please.
Absolutely. So this application is coming forward as part of the City of Toronto's Tenants First initiative. And that initiative is intended to convey a portion of the Toronto Community Housing Corporation's existing residential stock, including rooming houses, to the agencies that actually provide those services to those sites. If I can go to the first page of the presentation, you can see here that outlined in red is all properties owned by TCHC. All these properties are owned by TCHC, and these individual properties all merged on title approximately 50 years ago in 1973. The purpose of this particular application is to sever 41 Darcy, which is at the top right corner of the property near Darcy and Beverley Street, and to retain the remaining portion. So 41 Darcy will be conveyed to an agency that provides rooming house services, and the remainder of the property will remain as part of TCHC's portfolio. There is no development proposed with this application. There's no plans for construction. There's nothing being changed on the site. This is simply an exercise in redrawing the boundary lines. I can go to the next page, please. This is 41 Darcy, the property that's proposed to be conveyed. It is a rooming house with 15 dwelling rooms. It will continue to be a rooming house with 15 dwelling rooms after the severance and conveyance. There are no rental housing units or dwelling units that will be removed, converted, or otherwise lost as a result of the severance. Can you go to the next page, please? These are the buildings that exist on what will be the retained portion along Beverley Street and along Dundas Street. It's the entirety of the block. You can go to the next page, please. This is a colored version of the R plan that shows part 1 in green, which is proposed to be conveyed to the agency, and the remainder of the lot or the properties will be retained. And in doing so, in creating these new lot boundaries, we've triggered a number of minor variances for both the retained and the conveyed lands. And if you can go to the next page, I'll try to explain them. So again, as I've mentioned, and it's worth repeating, there are no changes being proposed to the buildings themselves. There's nothing being constructed or erected. These minor variances, for the most part, are either triggered by the redrawing of the lines, or they're reflective of the existing condition of the buildings. And these buildings are historic buildings. I believe 41 Darcy is more than 100 years old, and these are existing conditions. So for clarity, variance number 1 and variance number 2 are triggered by the redrawing of the property lines. So variance number 1 relates to parking spaces, and you can see at the rear of 41 Darcy Street, there are 10 parking spaces that historically have been provided to the entirety of the site. The conveyed portion for 41 Darcy will retain one of those parking spaces. Variance number 2 relates to floor space index, and that's simply a matter of the FSI. Once we've redrawn this property line, will result in a slight exceedance of what's permitted under the zoning bylaw. Variances 3 through 8 are all reflective of the existing condition of the site, and most of them relate to the front yard setback, the condition of the front of the building as it faces the front yard, and the existing porch and balcony, which extend into the front yard setback all the way to the property line. Similarly, the height of the first floor above grade is an existing condition, and the exterior access stairs are existing conditions. Can you go to the next page, please? Similarly, for the retained portion, we have 8 minor variances. Variance 4, 5, and 6 are variances that are triggered by the severance, by the redrawing of the property line, which creates a new rear lot line behind the properties at 41 Darcy on the sort of the corner of Beverley and Darcy. Variances 1, 2, 3, and 8 are variances that reflect the existing conditions, and in our opinion are minor. Notwithstanding the fact that these variances are existing and that no proposed construction or development is occurring, it is our opinion that the variances meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act, and that the severance contemplates or addresses the considerations of 5124 of the Planning Act. That's the extent of the proposal. I'm happy to answer any questions that the panel may have, or that the speaker has for me as well.
Okay, thanks very much. Okay. Sir, are you speaking on this item? Yes, please. You can sit there, and is the red light on the microphone?
Thank you so much.
If you could give us your name and address, please, sir.
My name is McLeod, John McLeod. And and by the way, thank you for having me here today, Mr. Chair. And I've lived for 41 years paying market rent at 145 Beverley Street. Far more than anybody who may be a professional planner, I'm aware of the dynamic of 41 Darcy's interaction with the community, a much larger community. And on the most basic level, 41 Darcy Street shares laundry room facilities, as does 370 Dundas, with other property. In other words, the laundry room for 145 Beverly Street serves 41 Darcy Street as well. The parking area behind this property is there to serve all tenants. It cannot be severed to just give them one parking space. The dynamic of that situation is that at any given time, people may be using those parking spaces. It may be someone from 41 Darcy Street. It may be someone from 147 Beverly Street who rents those spaces, but those spaces have been available to all tenants of the property. And beyond that, in residential property law, there is the idea of the common area. And at the property of Dundas Beverly Street, the green space surrounding these properties is an item that would clearly be viewed as a common area and would be there for the enjoyment of all tenants, and would be there for the enjoyment of tenants presumably only related to the property. In other words, if 41 Darcy is a separate entity, the tenants are not allowed to be on the private property that then exists as the remaining residential properties. But on the other hand, it is their grandfathered right to be on that property. And for psychological reasons, let's be clear, I've sat in my kitchen and witnessed hundreds of times that someone will come up the back steps of 41 Darcy Street, jimmy the lock, and do what I presume is a drug deal. I've had site superintendents come to my door begging me to intervene with this situation. I have a tenant who uses the former fire escape railing. He smashes out the window at the back of 41 Darcy Street, third floor level, and enters his apartment, known by staff and security, and enters his apartment by standing on the third floor railing, jumping across, hoisting himself through the window. This has happened for years. This included this winter where there was no window on that third floor unit. Who is going to manage this property? Right now, there's a CSU that has the right to manage the entire property, but any events occurring on this property, either 41 or the rest of the property, immediately become a problem for the entire property. It is not contained to 41 Darcy Street. 41 Darcy Street, at one point, the drug dealing was so rampant that the response of the tenants is to pull a fire pole to bring first responders to chase away the drug skills. That's why they do it. Every day, first responders were showing up for false alarms at 41 Darcy Street. This is a City of Toronto agency that owns this property. It is Toronto Community Housing. They have ignored and done nothing here. If there is a problem with this property, it includes people sleeping illegally in the washrooms at night, illegal sublets, on and on it goes. This is a City of Toronto agency where people are paid extremely well. Who else will manage this? We did not see this plan. The tenants did not see this plan. The neighborhood did not see this plan. There was a posted sign 2 weeks ago, last Tuesday, to indicate this meeting was happening today. This is not in the interest of good planning. This is not good neighborly relations, and I have paid the mortgage on 145 Beverly Street for living there for 41 years. I'm not the only long-term tenant. We are stakeholders. This is not being well thought out. There are rampant drug dealing situations. There are tenant intimidation situations. On and on it goes. But the fact that there are shared facilities, bike racks, et cetera, maintenance of the property, landscaping, et cetera, these properties cannot be severed. There are also properties at 37 and 39 Darcy Street that will become virtual islands by severing this property. The tenants are entitled, all tenants are entitled to enjoy the property, the grounds as they now exist. It is a violation of the provincial offenses to take away an element of enjoyment, such as a common area that has been used throughout a tenancy. We all recognize that. It's grandfathered. You cannot take that away. The entire model of Toronto community housing, I'd say this not to brag, I have a job. I work, I have a business in the neighborhood. I counsel people when they have problems in a way that no official agency could do. The idea of Toronto community housing is mixed income tenancy for the very benefits that we all understand exist. There are so many people well paid to be managing this property right now.
Okay, thank you, sir. I mean, I fully appreciate your concern, and it's clearly an important issue, and it's you gave a very passionate overview of your concern. So what I'm going to do is ask the agent to come and speak to that. I think your concerns are a little bit about the future management of 41 Darcy, whether it's TCHC or someone else, and how that's going to deal with some of the issues you've raised. And also the interplay between that property and other properties, and whether in fact people are using it as common areas, and whether that would be able to continue in the future. So I'm going to.
But we also, can I just say also, we share our garbage, the garbage disposal area is shared with 41 Darcy. It would be impossible to break that out separately.
So I'm going to bring the agent back and ask him to respond to those concerns.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Am I done?
Is there any questions? You are done, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I would hope that there would have been some questions, such as why were we not told anything about this?
Again, I think you raised that, and I'm sure that
surprised,
the agent
not
will be able to respond to that. Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we can go back to the agent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to Mr. McLeod for raising those concerns. I think primarily the chief concern raised by Mr. McLeod about the management of the property really speaks to the whole purpose behind the Tenants First initiative, and that's really recognizing that TCHC is not equipped to be a landlord for these types of properties that require the assistance and the intervention of the agencies that actually provide those services. TCHC is trying to get out of the landlord game because they don't have the resources to provide the services, the protection, and the services that Mr. McLeod has spoken to. And so it really is the reason why TCHC is pursuing this, and why that was directed by City of Toronto Council back in 2016 to go ahead with the Tenants First initiative. With respect to shared facilities and services, I appreciate the concerns about common areas and parking and garbage. All I can assure you is that as part of the negotiation between TCHC and the agency to which it is conveying the property, there has been consideration of shared parking facilities and shared facilities for garbage removal, and that is all governed by a signed agreement, an affordable housing agreement that will be registered on title with the property.
Okay. I think, Mr. McLeod's concern is really about the future management of 41. And is it your expectation and TCHC's expectation is that the management, by virtue of being transferred to a third party, the hope would be it's going to improve?
That's the idea. The idea is that the agency that will now own the property will also manage it. They'll be responsible for ownership and management of the property and looking after the property accordingly, which is something that TCHC is stretched very thin to do. And clearly from Mr. McLeod's experiences, he's suggesting that there have been problems with their management in the past.
Okay. Panel, any questions?
I have one, Chair.
Peter?
Thanks. Yeah, I think Mr. McLeod, raised an important point, and we have another letter on file that raised a similar thing in terms of the tenant engagement, right? The people who live on site, this seems to have kind of been sprung on them without any kind of meaningful discussion of what's going to happen to them and to their area. So can you talk about what happened or didn't happen and why, please?
Yes, I'm happy to. Just as a note, the letters that you're referring to, I have not seen. I don't believe that they're posted on the Application Information Center, and weren't provided to me. But I'm happy if they can be provided to me to have my client provide a formal response to the authors. As part of the application for this application, there was no public meeting required under the Planning Act. we have had other applications similar to this where an official plan amendment or a zoning bylaw amendment has been required, and as a result, we've convened meetings with the public on that. There is no such requirement for this application, but I do acknowledge that it was an oversight that maybe better communication of this should have gone forward. I think the overarching comment that I can make is that through this application, there is no change at all to the buildings, the built form, the use of the buildings. It's simply a change of ownership for one portion of the property, but that should have been better communicated to the residents of the entire block.
All right. Any further questions, panel? Okay, let's take this into committee. Who wants to start?
I can, go ahead, your turn.
Thank you, Joe, to start this one off. And I think this is a very, very straightforward, just in terms of looking at the request for severance. It certainly is an extremely straightforward one. And what's notable, of course, is that there absolutely nothing in these, in the severance that will have an impact on residents at all. So there's no changes to the structures, the internal changes, no internal changes, etc. I was curious as to why, and I think I'm now satisfied with the answer that there's a change in managerial structure. So I don't have any difficulty with this application at all. It's quite straightforward.
Okay. Would you like to move a motion? Nazila, did you have something to say?
No.
Okay. Zahir, do you want to?
Certainly, I'll put forward a motion to approve the application for severance. They are the standard engineering conditions attached, and I don't believe there are any other conditions attached to this particular application.
Okay. Move to approve with the standard engineering conditions by Mr. Bayat, seconded by Ms. West. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Mr. Nelligan, before you leave, I think Peter makes a really good point, as does Mr. McLeod, about going forward. And just a note that perhaps you could advise your clients to seek opportunities to engage with the tenancy of this area as we go forward with additional changes. I don't know if you heard me. Okay, I'll assume you heard me.
Maybe we could add that as a note,
As a
just for the
maybe
record.
a note for the record, Sabrina. That's a good suggestion, Peter.
Sure. Through you, Mr. Chair, we can add it for the record.
That's great. Thank you, Mr. McLeod, for coming down.
You know, total waste of my time, because you never took into the consideration the fact that
Sir.
by the time, when they sever these properties, they're able to sell off my home from underneath me. And
Thank
I'm
you.
thinking,
Thank you,
this
sir.
isn't about democracy, this is about giving the city.
Thank you,
of
sir.
Toronto owns this property. No, the city of Toronto owns this property. Why do they have to give it away to anybody? It could be managed without severing it.
Thank you,
You
sir.
know, the reason for doing this is to make it developer friendly. You don't like it, do something about it, Mr. Clay.
Thank you, sir.
Goodbye, Mr. Clay.
All right, we move on to number 20. '24 Claxton Boulevard. This is an application to alter the existing two-story detached dwelling by constructing a partial rear one-story addition. Committee has before it a copy plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, and 3 photographs of the subject property. Do we have the agent?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online and no registered speakers for this item.
All right.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. My name is Daniel Vinciani. I'm the agent representing the owner for 24 Claxton Boulevard. My address is 3 Halberdier Place, Toronto, Ontario.
Great, thank you. Hang on a second. Panel, do we need a presentation on this one? It looks fairly straightforward. It's extremely straightforward. Okay, sir, we don't need a presentation on this application. You're only seeking a very minor one variance, and we've read all the material associated with the application. We're comfortable with it. Is there anything you'd like to share with us before we take it into committee for a decision?
No, I'm content with committee's opinion on that.
Okay. All right, we're in committee. Who wants to take this one? Nazilla?
To you, Mr. Chair, as you mentioned, it's a very straightforward application. Therefore, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with no condition.
Okay, motion by Ms. West to approve, no conditions, seconded by Mr. Byatt. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you very much. We move on to item number 21, 20 Hugo Avenue. This is an application to alter the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a partial ground floor addition, side addition, and a second-story rear addition. The existing one-story ancillary building will be maintained and unaltered. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 4 photographs of trees on the subject property, and support in the form of form letters from owners, occupants on 10 form letters in support from owners, occupants on Hugo Avenue.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Aldea Durazo from Replacement.
You're going to have to speak a whole lot louder.
Oh, sorry.
Much louder, even more.
Hold on. Is it okay?
There, you're better. There, thank you.
Okay, sorry. Good afternoon. My name is Aldea Durazo from Replacement Design in 911 Davenport Road, and I'm the agent representing the owners of this property.
Okay, I don't think we need a presentation for this one either. It's fairly straightforward. We've read all the information, the material you've submitted. We're comfortable with what we have before us. We don't need a presentation. Is there anything you would like to share with us before we take it into committee for a decision?
No, I think our proposal is pretty straightforward. Thank you.
Okay, panel, any questions? Okay, we're in committee. Someone want to take this one? Paul?
Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, thank you very much. I find this a very supportable application. I do find it minor in nature. The 2 variances requested look like just an effective expansion of the property with really not negligible impact on the adjacent neighbors. And the increases that are requested with regard to FSI and the distances from the main wall, from the side main wall, are minor in nature and supportable. So I move that we approve this variance with no conditions.
Okay. Mr. Gogan moves approval, seconded by Ms. West. All in favor? Okay, you have your approval. Thank you. Item number 22 is 6 Cavell Avenue. This is an application to alter the existing 3-story detached dwelling by constructing second and third floor additions to the front, rear, and along the east side wall. Also to construct front balconies on the second and third levels. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 3 photographs of the subject property, and decision numbers B0078/09TEY and A0581/23TEY affecting the subject property. Committee, there are reports from community planning and an advisory report from Metrolinx.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent here in person, no registered speakers for this item.
Great. Hello, sir.
Yes, my name is Gary Delman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members.
For your address, sir?
My address is 28 Cawthra Avenue, Toronto.
Okay, hang on a second. Folks, do we need a presentation on this one?
I don't.
Not sure? we have a question, but do you want a short presentation, or you just want to go right to questions?
I'll just go to the questions because.
Okay, so we don't need a presentation. I'll give you the same thing. We've read all the material. We're familiar with the application. Is there anything you want to share? We do have a couple questions, but is there anything you want to share with us before we do that?
Only that the variances we have here, none of them are setting precedents. They're all within or less than what's existing on the street already.
And you've seen the planning report about screening for your...
Yes, I have. I've got one comment on that.
Okay, you might as well do it now.
There are existing buildings there that have plain glass, balconies on the street side, and I really think that the owner may very well choose to use opaque glass, but I don't think that it should be part of the requirement here for this adjustment, because there are several buildings actually on the street that have plain glass.
So you're disagreeing with what planning's recommendation is?
I don't see why they're asking for that recommendation. I don't.
Okay.
Don't understand it. We're not refusing to accept it, but we're just asking why. Why are they asking for this? Because it doesn't seem to be necessary, and other buildings don't have opaque glass on their balconies abutting the street anyway.
So your contention then is that there's no overlook issue, there's no privacy issues between this development and your adjacent neighbors?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. All right. Sahir, did you have a question?
Yes, Chair, thank you. Just looking at the site plan, and on your site plan, the proposed site data indicates that there's your rear yard soft landscaping, you've got about 53%. But if you look at the drawing, all I see is new brick paving and just a very narrow strip of existing garden. So I'm just wondering why there isn't a variance for soft landscaping in the rear. It looks like the entire rear is going to be almost completely new brick paving.
Yeah, but the paving was accepted under the previous committee as soft landscaping because we need access to the garages that are back there, and we're going to remove the existing concrete and put in paving that will allow water seepage into the area, that area. That's why we're using that particular type of brick paving that allows for seepage. So the existing condition is actually paved concrete. And
I'm sorry, you're replacing it with what?
We're replacing it with a paving stone that will allow soakage.
Oh, so it's permeable pavers?
Yes, it's permeable paving.
Okay.
That was a condition of the previous approval, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just you were here just last fall.
Yes.
And you got a bunch of approvals. You're back again for a bunch more. What's changed? Like, what more are you doing relative to what you were approved for last fall?
Really, the only change here is extending the second and third floors a couple of feet over the driveway to make a wider building that is better for planning for the rooms inside, because it's a very narrow building. And the owner had meetings with the planner after we got the approval, and the planner felt that we really should have gone for widening the building in the first application, which was overlooked.
Okay. All right, anything further?
No,
That's the 3 feet additional? Sorry, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, please.
That's the 3 feet additional that's been added?
What was that?
Oh, sorry, the 3 feet, that's the additional, is the 3 feet additional that was added to the width?
3 feet additional to the width, but it doesn't come into the, because they've got an 8-foot driveway down the east side, the 3 feet of increased width Well, they can't eliminate the driveway because they've got the parking in the garage in the back. So the 3 feet only affects the second and third floor.
So it's cantilevered over the driveway.
So we've cantilevered over the driveway. Yeah.
Okay. So you'll appreciate that I think, you know, the committee will discuss this, but community planning, regardless of your thoughts on this, is of the view that there is privacy and overlook concerns to your immediate neighbors. So we appreciate your position on that, but we'll take that and we'll discuss that amongst ourselves.
Okay, I'd like to point out that particularly on the east side, the neighbours, have a garage at the rear. We're facing the rear yards, not the side yards of the neighbours there. So the houses are 20 metres away from this particular house.
So these balconies are on the front or the rear?
Balconies are on the front, on the
the
street
front.
side.
Okay.
yes.
All right. Thank you. Any further questions, panel? We good? All right, thank you, sir. We'll take it into committee.
Thank you.
Who wants to start, Peter?
I'll start. And on the community planning condition, I agree with the agent. I think they're talking about the front,
Right.
The front balconies, and I don't think it's a positive thing to have privacy screening on the sides of a front balcony, period, but especially in this condition, I don't think it's necessary. And additionally, I think the variances being requested are minor. So I support this application without condition.
Okay, anyone else? So here you seem to be mulling this over.
No, I have to admit that I didn't notice the decision with regard to the rear yard in the previous decision.
Right.
So I think that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
And I think with regard to the privacy screening, it is unusual to have a request for the front balcony. So I am a bit surprised, as Peter is about.
Well, I think the only thing is that the juxtaposition of the lot, it's kind of close to the backyards of the streets on, what is this street here?
I just think there's a garage right beside it anyway.
Yeah, there is. Okay. All right, so Peter, you want to make a motion?
Yeah, again, I think these variances being requested are minor. I think the community planning condition is not appropriate in this condition, in this instance, so I move approval without conditions.
Okay, Mr. Reed moves approval, seconded by Ms. West. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the remaining items will begin at 3:30, which means that we'll break for half an hour.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Members can turn off their videos and microphones, please.
Okay, we continue with item number, we start with number 23, but we're going to jump ahead to item number 24 and come back to 23 because we have a request for deferral. So number 24 is 265 Symington Avenue. And this is an application to construct a new two-story ancillary building containing one laneway suite in the rear yard abutting the laneway. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 12 photographs of trees on the subject property, and a deferral request from the agent received May 14th. There is a staff report from Metrolinx as well. Do we have Mr. Lopez?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, we do have Bruno Lopez online and no registered speakers for this item.
Through you, Mr. Chair, my name is Bruno Lopez from MXL Engineering Associates, located at 1649 St. Clair Avenue West. And yes, I'm representing the owner at this hearing.
Okay. You're seeking a deferral. Can you just share with us the reason?
Yes, absolutely. Through you, Mr. Chair. We are actually designing a very unique situation. Actually, both neighbors, 265 and 267, we've been working diligently to have both applications always at the same time. Unfortunately, both of them, they're going to be at committee, but this one actually got a little slightly more advanced. And as a request of the owner, they would like to be both present and they would like to have both applications at the same time.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll go into committee. Can I get a motion to defer? Mr. Reid?
Thanks, Chair. I move a motion to defer. I think this is a good idea to see these two proposals side by side.
Agreed. Seconder? Mr. Gogan? All in favor? You have your deferral. Thank you. Okay, we go back to item number 23, 210 Galley Avenue. This is an application to alter the existing two-story detached dwelling by constructing a partial rear one-story addition. The committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 5 photographs of trees on the subject property, neighborhood site analysis by the agent, and a tree protection plan. There are 6 form letters in support from owners occupants of Galley Avenue and Sunnyside Avenue. We have the agent, please.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online and no registered speakers for this item.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Hi. Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee. My name is Leela Yavari with Dart Studio. I'm at 35 Golden Avenue, Suite 118, Toronto, Ontario. I'm the agent representing the homeowners at 210 Galley.
That's great. Thanks. Hang on a second. Panel, this is only one variance for FSI. It's really just a topping off of the 3rd floor. Does anyone need a presentation? No. All right. We don't need a presentation today. The panel has reviewed the material. We're familiar with the application. Before we take it into committee for a decision, is there anything you'd like to share?
No, nothing else, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Peter?
Thanks. Just looking at the purpose, I think it would be more accurate to say a partial rear 3rd story addition. Are you okay with that? It says one story addition now.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, thanks.
Well, now I'm not sure about it. Okay, can I get a motion?
Yeah.
Paul?
Hi. Yeah, this is a straightforward application. It's one item variance, minor in nature. Again, well documented by the applicant, which is always appreciated. And I move it, and it has no. Does it have a condition, a forestry condition? No. No forestry condition, so no conditions.
Okay, motion by Mr. Gogan to approve with no conditions, seconded by Mr. Byatt. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you.
As amended, Chair.
Oh, the purpose is amended. Yes. Thank you very much.
Amended, thank you. Yeah. Very well done.
All right, item number 25. 47 Hounslow Heath Road. This is an application to alter the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a ground floor addition, a new enclosed front porch and stairs, and a rear ground level deck. Also, to reconstruct the rear basement walkout stairs and entry. There will be a total of 2 residential units on this lot. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevation, 7 photographs of trees on the subject property, and 21 photographs of comparable properties submitted by the applicant.
For you, Mr. Chair, we do have the applicant online as well as one person here speaking in concern.
Okay. If we could have the agent.
Would that be myself, Marcia?
Yes, it would be. If you could give us your name and address, please.
Okay, it's Marcia Mendonça Daco, and it's 47 Hounslow Heath Road.
Okay, we'll need a short presentation from you. There's someone who wants to speak to this item.
Okay. In my opinion, my renovation not only improves the curb appeal of my home aesthetically, but also improves the water drainage situation, as I plan on putting permeable pavers on the walkway. It also reduces the amount of walkway and concrete, as it will be reduced to 1 walkway versus the 2 current that we have. The porch is remaining exactly the same. The staircase is being turned in the other direction. And this is actually to improve the situation for my adjoining neighbor, or not adjoining, adjoining neighbor, because currently my dog, when he comes down the stairs, he immediately goes onto his property to the right. Whereas if the walkway comes down the other direction where I'm trying to direct it to, it will actually just go onto my lawn, and it will eliminate him from having to put a fence that he was saying a few weeks ago that he wanted to put there because of the dog constantly going on his property. So this kind of solves a lot of problems. And also, if you look at some of the last photographs, you'll see that there's already concrete. I think it's number, hold on, let me see. Oh, it closed down. But at the end, I've included photographs of my property. Where are they? Further down. Yeah, there. So those are that's my property there. So if you look at it, that's the direction that the staircase would be going to instead of down the way it's coming. And it would be going in that direction. And there's already two concrete slabs there. So that would actually be reduced. The one going down the front of the property right now would be gone. And this would be kind of adjoined instead of the way it is right now. So there's 2 concrete slabs with a little green space in between. So those would just be adjoined, and the staircase would go in the other direction, kind of connecting to, like it's already there, but it would be permeable pavers so that it would actually drain better as well. And if you look at Heather's property, the one next to me on the other side, which I didn't actually take pictures of, but her existing conditions are even further than mine in terms of, like, her porch sticks out more and her walkway sticks out more. So it's not any more than what's already on this on the property next to mine, as well as lots of other ones as per the pictures that I've submitted. So, and the staircase is required anyway, regardless. It needs to have a railing. This is mandatory. So yeah, that's kind of what I have to say about it.
Okay, thank you. Just a question. So I was just looking at your site plan. It shows a laneway suite in your rear yard?
Right.
So is that's already built?
No, that's not built. That's a separate application, and that has no variances to it.
Okay, so you're proposing a laneway suite, but you don't need any variances, you just go through the building permit process?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, panel, any questions? No? We have our speaker. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hi. I'm Peter Holowatenko. I live at 45 Hounslow Heath Drive, right beside, attached to Marcia's home. We actually have good relationships with Marcia, and the dog is okay. It's a little bit annoying, but that's fine. That's not our concern. We actually support her project. We think this is great because it will absolutely increase curb appeal for her and for us because we're attached to that house. But we have a couple of concerns, and they're not outer space concerns, but they're concerns for us, so we want to voice them. Unfortunately, Marcia and we've just been too busy to actually get together, and I wanted something on a record. And I know that we can, we can work with her to further progress this, but I wanted to at least discuss it and have this brought forward. So the first one was in the rear of the home, where she's going to be removing her dormer, or that shed that's attached to her home that is the current entrance to the basement apartment. The concern that we have is that when that part of her building is removed, part of our building, part of our house is there, and I just want to make sure that, I don't know what's behind that. I want to make sure that it's not exposed to the elements, that it's going to be closed properly, treated correctly by her contractor, et cetera. So that's really what we wanted to make sure of. That was probably the number one thing, one of the big things. The second one, for us, was around the front porch stairs. We appreciate her turning the stairs the other way for her dog, et cetera. And in the images that are available in the file, everything looks fantastic. The concern we have is that in one of the images, it appears as though there's a wall. And on our porch, we're already in a covered porch or veranda, and so we're a bit worried about airflow. And it may sound silly, but you know what? When you're sitting there, and we sit there often, airflow, if it's impeded, can be a bit of a challenge. So we're just looking at considerations for what that structure would be on the part of the stairs that would be facing our home.
Okay. Is there a wall there now?
No. The stairs come out. That's part of what she's doing. She's doing this to be able to have a railing, right, and have a safer exit from her home. But the stairs turn 90 degrees.
Right, you're right.
And
the
then
rendering does show.
There'll be a structure there, and this is the back of the house, yeah.
Okay.
And then the part two of that one with the front is just a concern about the green space in front. I guess I didn't understand fully when I read through the file that the piece of concrete was going to disappear, one of the walkways. That sounds great. We just wanted to make sure there's still going to be grass, because it seemed like there was going to be a reduction in how much green space there was. And we wanted to make sure that there was grass because both of us don't have trees on our lawns. So, there's an importance for us to have some kind of green space there. And the third component, which this is the one that might sound trivial, however, in the plans that are shown for the new structure in the backyard, which again we support, her AC unit is going to be almost beside our fence, or right near it, and we moved our AC unit from our backyard to in between homes to reduce noise for both ourselves and for not thinking about it, but potentially for that neighbor. So we would like her to consider alternatives to the location for that particular component.
And that's not before us, just so you.
That's not, yeah, that's all, that's part of the plan.
Okay.
Part of her architectural drawings, or whatever you might say.
Okay. All right. Anything further?
No. Again, I just say we do support it. We just have some concerns.
Okay. Any questions, guys? Nope. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll put those questions to your neighbor.
Thank you.
Marcia.
Yes.
So you heard your neighbor raise, I think, 3 items. So if you could try to address those, that would be great.
Sure. Okay, so two of those are not actually anything related to this case, so I don't know that I actually need to address those. In fact, if we're going to talk about all that stuff, I'll have to bring up the fact that in the backyard, he has a fence between the two of our properties that's exceeding the height limit. I think it's like 10 feet high or something. And I don't like the way it looks. And so I don't think we need to get into all that. Like, I think we should just address the one issue that was actually with regards to what's in front of us, which was, I guess he's saying that he's concerned with the airflow with regards to how I separate or the wall that I guess I'm going to be putting up there to it's more of an aesthetic thing. Like, my designer designed it that way because I said I wanted the walkway to come out this way. So I don't know what to say about that. Like, it's going to look really nice. And like the airflow, I don't see how it affects his airflow. Like, the airflow comes from the front of his house, like onto his porch. Like, I'm not really sure how to address that. Like, it's an aesthetic thing. It's going to look nice, and it's a change of direction of how the stairs come into the property. I don't really know what to say about it.
What, just through the chair, thanks. I think it's in certain renderings it's looking like a slatted wall, or is it slatted, or is it?
Honestly, I don't even know, because like my designer designed this and I just liked the way it looked, and I was like, yeah, that looks amazing. I think that's going to look great. I don't know like in terms of like what materials are going to be used. I haven't even gotten to that stage. Like, in terms of picking out what's going to go there and how it's going to kind of all work out. So if I can get some direction on it, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, frankly, the variance doesn't really speak to what the material that would be used, right? So it is up to you to decide what material is there. I mean, the variance is for the front yard setback, and you know, based on these designs, it looks like it's just a porch and some stairs. So we're not necessarily in a position where we can prescribe the material. I think the advice would be from us, it would be that if there's a way to have a discussion with your neighbor to help out or satisfy some of his concerns, that would be great. I guess if it works out, that's great, but that will be up to you and your neighbor to resolve.
Yeah.
I think, you know, and it looks like from your renderings that you're not planning to, and you can't really pave over your front yard, with the exception of replacing your walkway with permeable pavers, which is commendable. The rear yard walkout, I think he's just more concerned about structural integrity, which would be something that would be addressed in the building permit stage.
Right.
And the air conditioner unit that supports your proposed laneway suite, that's not before us, so we can't deal with that today.
Right.
So, thank you very much. Any further questions, folks? Okay, we'll take this into committee. Who wants to start?
I'll take this one, Chair. if it-
Okay, so here.
I think it's the application before us with the two variants is fairly straightforward. From the renderings that are before us, it looks like a reasonable application. I don't see any issues. I don't see any conditions attached to this application either. So I'd like to move a motion to approve this application with no conditions attached.
Okay, motion to approve by Mr. Byatt, seconded by Ms. West. All in favor? You have, Peter? Oh, yes, we have your approval. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we move on to item number 26. 530 Main Street. This is an application to construct a new two-story detached ancillary building containing one garden suite in the rear yard. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, and 2 photographs of trees on the subject property. Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Okay. Mr. Stanbuck.
Osran, you've been unmuted.
Thank you. Hi, this is Osran Stambuk. I'm at 15 Moreland Road.
Okay, panel. Maybe just a short presentation. Perhaps just a short presentation, please, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the reason we're actually coming to you today for this Committee of Adjustment application is because of a very long and convoluted process to ensure we have emergency access. We meet the emergency access requirement to the suite, and so that we are within 90 meters of a fire hydrant. And in order to have met that requirement, we actually were going through the permit phase and then had to revise the drawings to add this front vestibule to the front of the suite to go within a few centimeters of that 90-meter requirement. We even entered into a limiting distance agreement with the northern neighbor. The homeowners entered into that limiting distance agreement. So the reason that provoked the Committee of Adjustment application is because that front vestibule, it affected our layout quite a bit, and we had to just stretch the garden suite a little bit to fit what we had before that front vestibule came on, that front one-story vestibule you can see there on the site plan. So that's just kind of jutting out. So in order to make it work with that little vestibule that came all from this emergency access issue, we needed to just stretch a little bit, and thus is the reason for all of our variances. You know, with the coverage, with the floor area, with the percentage of the lot. We also then wanted to take the opportunity, since we were going to go through committee and pay all those fees, maybe to request also pushing the roof up 15 centimeters just to make the second floor more usable. Because as it stands, you know, with 6 meters and these garden suites, the second floor very much feels like a loft. And that's fine. That's understandable. We want that. We don't want, you know, a laneway suite here or in garden in backyards. But basically, we're requesting just to push that roof a little bit because every centimeter counts for comfort. So that's really the sum of it. That's the reason we're here and the reason we're asking for these quite minor adjustments to the variances.
Great, thank you. Actually, I quite like the design, to be quite honest with you. Weird, unintended consequences. That's great. Any questions, panel?
No.
No? Okay. Oh, you do have a question?
Yeah, just a quick question. I like Mr. Clay, I think the design is really interesting. At least the hose will reach the vestibule and it'll be saved. Just with regard to the soft landscaping, question at behind the proposed space. There's an area that I imagine part of it may have been a garage pad before. Is that an area behind the proposed structure going to be soft landscaped?
Yes, that through you, Mr. Chair, that will be soft landscaping, and you can see that on, if staff cares to scroll up to sheet A003, you will see the soft landscaping plan. And that entire area in the back is right, that's it right there. That entire area in the back is becoming, that old garage is being removed, the slab is being removed, and that's becoming soft landscaping.
Terrific, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? No. We're good? Okay, thank you, sir. We'll take this into committee. Anyone want to take a crack at this one? Mozilla?
To you, Mr. Chair, I think I'm satisfied with the explanation that the agent provided. Therefore, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with no condition.
Great. Motion to approve this application by Ms. West, seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you. Item number 27. 121 Hannaford Street. This is an application to alter the existing two-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing new rear stairs. Also to construct a new ancillary building, a detached garage in the rear yard of the property abutting the lane. The existing rear deck and detached garage will be demolished. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 8 photographs of the subject property, and an arborist report prepared by Shane Goldman.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Okay. All right. Mr. Rahimi?
Yes.
Oh,
Hello.
sorry. Pardon me, Ms.
Rahimi. Yes,
Pardon
that's
me.
fine. My name is Shirin Rahimi from Squarebase Architects, located at 930 the East Mall, Etobicoke, and I'm an architectural consultant presenting on behalf of the owners.
Okay, so you're just seeking variances for a garage.
That's correct. So we are proposing a new detached garage at the rear of the property. The reason we are asking for these 2 variances to increase the height of the ancillary building and the floor area is because the property owner owns a larger vehicle and requiring a taller and more spacious garage than the current the extra height is required to comfortably accommodate the truck that he owns, ensuring it can be securely parked indoors. So this is not just a matter of convenience, but also maintaining the vehicle in good condition as they currently struggle to park their vehicle in the existing garage.
So what kind of vehicle does your client have?
He's a carpenter and he has a van and he has like ladders and equipments on top of the van.
Okay. All right, panel, any questions? All right, ma'am, thank you very much. We'll take this into committee.
Thank you.
I'll start. I see no justification for the additional height of a garage of this nature. That's like over 15 feet. So I'm as many of you know, that this is one issue that I tend to harp on a lot about additional height in ancillary dwellings where it doesn't meet a particular public goal. So I just think the height is excessive and I won't be supporting it. So here?
I think I concur with you. When I first saw the drawings, I was wondering if this is intended to be a habitable space at some point in the future, but that doesn't seem to be the case. And from what I can see at this point, it looks like a rather the problem of a massing effect. So I am also a little uncomfortable with the additional height request.
Well, even if it did need that height, it wouldn't fit through the door, the garage door.
Garage door is an issue. Yeah. Exactly, I think for the height that they were talking
Yeah.
about.
So, Peter?
Thanks. I agree. I mean, it is large and it is tall, but I know in my neighborhood there are several large garages that are owned by people who work in the trades, and they're necessary for what they have. I don't know what the alternative is, but I think once you have a van plus an extra foot or two of ladders on top, it becomes really challenging. So I understand the kind of issue that is facing these property owners, and I sympathize. I think that keeping people who work in the trades in the city is important. So I support this application.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. I'll look for a motion.
Probably use it here.
Before we go into motion,
Oh.
could I just make another comment?
Of course.
And I think this question of, what was the reason for the height? And your point just now, when you look at the renderings, the garage door looks like a standard door. If you've got a vehicle with a truck, perhaps a pickup or whatever it is, with ladders on it, I can't see how that would fit through that door. And that, if you really needed the height for a vehicle, commercial style vehicle, I think you'd need a larger door. That would make sense. So I find this one problematic. So if I, with your permission, I'll put forward a motion, see where it lands. I'd like to move motion to refuse this application for the reasons I've indicated, that I think the garage is just too large for the purpose indicated.
Okay, motion to refuse by Mr. Byatt. Do I have a seconder? There is no seconder, so that motion fails. I'll need another motion. Peter?
Thanks. For the reasons I stated before, I'm going to move approval of the application. I think also, I mean, there's just the two variances being requested. And I think the additional floor area is not, I think that's a minor variance. And I think with the 5.15 over the Ford, especially with the introduction of new structures, new garages, and laneway suites in the alleys in this area, I think that this is getting closer to in keeping with the new built form pattern. So I move approval.
Okay, motion to approve by Mr. Reed, seconded by Ms. West. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, that motion carries. This application is approved. You seemed like you struggled there a little bit, Paul. Okay, we move on to item number 28. 105 Marchmount. This is an application to alter the existing 2.5-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear 2-story addition and a rear 3rd floor addition. The existing rear 2nd and 3rd floor balconies will be demolished. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a covering letter from the agent, arborist report from Bright Leaf, and a staff report from Urban Forestry. We have 4 form letters in support from owners, occupants of 95, 105, 115 Marchmount, and 42 Caris Avenue.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Okay, great, thank you. We could have the
Mr. J.
Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Jay Smith, agent for the application.
Okay. Hang on a second. Mr. Smith, perhaps just a very brief overview of your application, please.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. The bulk of the addition that we're putting on the home is on the 3rd floor. We have kept the front of the home very similar to existing. The only thing that might be seen from the road is a little bit of the top of the 3rd floor. We've done this to maintain the character of the neighborhood and reduce the massing. We also have kept the bulk of the addition on the 3rd floor and not on the lower levels. The ground floor will be extended 1.41 meters, and that is to allow for basically a mudroom landing space before the stairs that are currently in the home that are at the rear. We have significant setbacks from the neighbors. We have 1.18 meters to the lot line plus then to the neighbor's home on the 3rd floor, and at the rear we're about 3.6 meters. We also face onto a laneway, so I believe the impact will be minimal. The site or the eaves projection is the existing condition. The current home is already sitting at 1.15 FSI, and we're asking for 1.34. And I'd be happy to answer any questions the committee may have.
Great, well done. Any questions? No questions. Thank you very much. That was good and concise. We'll go into committee. Panel, any thoughts, comments, a motion? Thank you, Peter.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, this is a nice addition, I think. The bulk of it's internal to the footprint of the building and has zero impact. And then there's this smaller two-floor addition at the back. And I think it works because of the lot layout. There's a jog in the lotting pattern here, and I think so the neighbors to the east there'll be no impact to them because their house kind of goes back on an angle and deeper. The variances themselves are minor, and I think this is fully supportable. So I move approval subject to urban forestry condition 2.
Okay, Mr. Reed moves approval, subject to forestry number 2. Seconded by Ms. West. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you, sir. Item number 29, 12 Ormsby Crescent. This is an application to construct a new 3-story detached dwelling with an integral garage, a front porch with a canopy above, a rear ground floor covered terrace with stairs, a rear third floor balcony, and a rear yard in-ground swimming pool and hot tub. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Decision number A0967/14TEY affecting the subject property, an arborist report from Lakeshore Tree Services, presentation materials from the agent. We have email correspondence from Transportation and from Urban Forestry, and an advisory report from Metrolinx. There is a total of 10 form letters in support from 3, 9, 19, and 21 Ormsby, 10 and 15 Ormsby Crescent, 293, 229 Forest Hill Road, and 16 Ormsby Crescent.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Great, thanks a lot. Mr. Bronskill.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. David Bronskill here, agent for the applicant. Address is 333 Bay Street, Suite 3400, Toronto, Ontario.
David, we don't, there's no one registered in opposition, but this is a large application. I wonder if you could give us just a brief overview.
I can, and with thanks to staff, if they could just quickly pull up those presentation materials. I'm going to primarily, Mr. Chair, address the FSI and just the length depth, and I'll do so both in a quantitative and qualitative discussion for you. The second slide shows you just a few things. Green is the existing house. The red line, though, I just want to draw your attention to, that's the permitted outline under the zoning bylaw when you factor in front yard, side yard, length, depth, and a permitted sort of 1-story projection. You can see that we do exceed a little bit at the rear, but I'm going to say to the committee, I don't think it's an extensive projection from the back. Part of the length depth is below grade. I won't ask staff to turn you to them, but I'll just give you the numbers as I have on other files. The length and depth, I should say, of the house decreases as you go up through the 3 stories. There is a length on the first floor only of about 18.29 meters. There is an outdoor area at the back, but the actual structure itself is 18.29 meters. On the second floor, there's a projection for a bathtub, so it's actually slightly higher at 18.59, but when you take out that projection, small projection for the bathtub, the second floor is only 17.68, and then the third floor is just 11.61 meters in terms of its length. I'm going to talk a little bit about that third floor as well when I talk to you about the FSI, because that third floor really is tucked away into the roof line of the house. With apologies to staff, if they can just pop back up to the first page, what we broke out for the committee is, although you'll see an FSI of 93.42% or 0.9342, the 2 stories is actually only 0.7981. It's space within the roof line of this house, and I'll eventually show you the rendering on the last slide. It's permitted. There's no height variance. It's use of that roof line space for a bedroom and an office on that third floor. We have, if staff don't mind bouncing forward just to page 4. We did canvass FSI in the area. There is a range. There are some in the 70s and 80s. As I have said to you in other files, there's also some in the neighborhood that are at ours or even greater. There's 95, a couple of 95s, 90.49, 100, 103. So there is a range. We are at the upper end of that range, but we are within the range of FSI approvals. That's including all third floors. And there is no height variance. There is no third floor variance. If staff could go to page 6, and then I'll ask eventually to page 7 for the rendering. Page 6 just shows you the elevation, Mr. Chair, and it shows you the 2 stories, as I've indicated I see the spinning blue circle from staff. I'll just wait a second. Apologies. There we go. Thanks to staff. We could even just do it there on the rendering. You can see there's 2 stories. There's the roof line above. That's again within the permitted height. There's no height variance, no main wall variance, no number of story variances. That's the space, the additional FSI space that brings the number up, where there's a bedroom and office space within that roof line. If that space was not counted, as I noted earlier, we'd have decreased FSI before the committee of 0.7981, but the built form would be the same. And so from a qualitative perspective, I don't think there's any impacts on the neighbors, and I think that's evidenced by the fact that there are letters of support, including from the neighbor immediately adjacent at 10, and there was good community consultation reaching out to the neighbors on this file. So that's the presentation, Mr. Chair. Obviously, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you very much. Panel, any questions? Mr. Here.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of quick, one quick one. I'm just wondering, given the fact that your terrace, your covered outdoor terrace extends pretty close to the swimming pool, is there any reason why a variance with regard to rear soft landscaping was not triggered?
If you just give me a minute, I'm just going to look at the plans. There is no variance. The plans, and I'm just seeing if they include the soft landscaping calculation. I don't see them on the plans that I have in front of me. I do know that. There's a hot tub there. That blue space is actually shown as grass. So I don't think that blue space, the larger blue space is, I think, shown as grass, and then there's a pool. The pool itself counts as soft yard. Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't actually have the soft landscaping requirement in front of me, but I do know it was done and submitted, and I do know that the zoning review did not identify a variance. So I don't have anything I can add other than that.
So essentially the pool and the hot tub would supposedly count as soft landscaping?
I do know the pool counts because it's not hard landscaping, because you're not having surface runoff from the pool area itself. But I don't actually have the calculation on these plans in front of me, so I can't give you any more information than that, with my apologies.
Okay, thank you.
Peter?
Thanks, Chair. My only concern is the width of the driveway, and it's 6 meters instead of 3.2. And I know that there is a pattern of larger driveways in here, but if you could speak to the necessity of that. But also, I just want to flag the rendering is very inaccurate in how it represents the driveway. The driveway actually on the ground floor plan extends beyond the side of the house, and then towards the middle it hits the stairs in its the right side kind of third. So it's very undersized in the rendering, and I hope that was just an oversight.
I think it was, until you just mentioned it to me now. I had not seen that on the plans, on the rendering. So I take your point. I'm not going to argue. I look at the plan as well and see the extension of the driveway, and it would not match what's shown on the rendering. So I do take your point. We are permitted to have permeable paving. Sorry, we are prepared to have permeable paving for that driveway as a condition. There are some larger driveways in the area. The idea, frankly, is just to be able to have good access for larger vehicles to the garage with the driveway. There are a few in the area. That's the extent of the rationale for it. Ultimately, if the committee was uncomfortable with the driveway width, I would say we would prefer to proceed with the approval without the driveway width as opposed to a refusal of everything, if that makes sense through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Reid.
It does.
Thank you.
I want to talk a little bit about the length and the associated relationship with the covered terrace. This is becoming, I think you'd probably agree, this is becoming a more common feature of new builds in these neighborhoods. And I guess my question, first of all, I'm assuming that the length variance that you're requesting is because of the covered terrace in the rear. Is that correct?
It's actually because of the excavation below. It's not actually for the covered outdoor terrace. And sorry, Mr. Chair, just apologies for jumping back. I just looked at some additional materials because there was something through you to Mr. Reid that was I couldn't put my finger on in terms of your question about the driveway. One thing I forgot is that's actually the existing condition. I forgot that. So the existing condition is the wider driveway. The driveway that's shown on the plan matches the existing condition. So it's not proposing to enlarge it, it's proposing to keep the driveway. So my apologies for forgetting that and not pointing that out to you in answer to Mr. Reid's question.
So just following that, so your proposal would be to rip that up and replace it with permeable?
We could do that if the committee was uncomfortable with anything related to the front yard and a larger hardscape area. We would, sometimes that's the question about the larger driveways, ensuring that there's permeability. But we are proposing just to keep the existing driveway and would be happy just keeping it as it is. But sometimes that is a concern, Mr. Chair, is that you've got that additional hardscape space. And so with that additional hardscape space to ensure permeability, we'd be fine with a condition that would require permeable paving.
Okay. Can we turn back to the covered terrace?
Yeah, so the variance itself is actually triggered by the below grade construction in it's the excavation area. That's what triggers the length depth. And that's why, Mr. Chair, I went through the actual indoor space, if I can call it that, of the structure that's on the first, second, and third floors, that they actually aren't that significant. The porch itself extends further, that covered room extends further, but it's technically outdoor space and doesn't trigger the FSI and length depth.
So not to belabor this point, but I'm just looking at the west elevation.
Yeah, I'm just going to pull it up.
And, you know, I see the below grade excavation for the basement. There is a sort of a step up for, I guess, footings for the outside of the terrace. But the basement doesn't extend as far as the covered terrace, at least by my reading of the west elevation.
Correct. There's an unexcavated portion there where that step up is. That's what you're seeing in that elevation. That if I can call it less deep excavation is actually an unexcavated portion beneath the covered terrace.
But the length must then be attributed to the outside wall of the terrace, right? Sorry, I'm not trying to belabor this, but I'm just trying to understand.
My understanding is it's not. My understanding is it's to the extent of the excavated portion below grade.
Okay. The other question is, I mean, as I said, these sort of covered terraces in the rear, we're seeing more of them. Both sides look like they have some sort of treatment on it that kind of, it sort of presents a little bit like a room rather than a covered terrace. So, but I accept that there is a difference, and is the difference in this case that the rear facing portion of the covered terrace is open to the backyard? There is no enclosure?
That's true, yes.
Okay, so the access to the terrace is through the main dwelling?
Well, you could access from the rear as well, but you could access from the main dwelling as well. There isn't the extensive grade change that you sometimes see with these on this site, where you have more extensive steps up. If you look again on that west elevation, you can see the grade change actually. As you come to the back, it's more of a walkout. There's basically almost one step down from the terrace, whereas on some others that I've walked you through, you see the grade change the other way, and these outdoor rooms actually have a greater height at the rear. This has basically a short step down to the rear, and really does present as frankly a one-story portion out the back, but it is open then to the backyard, so you just have a step up from that rear area into the terrace, and that's something reviewed with the neighbors who have not expressed a concern.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anything further? Zahir?
Sorry, Mr. Bronskill, for belaboring. On your statistics page in the plans, right at the bottom, rear yard landscape open space indicates required 50%, and I think what is proposed or what is there would be 50.95. Would that be correct? And would that be exclusive of the pool, or is that inclusive of the pool?
I apologize, sir. I don't have that calculation in front of me. I was looking to see if I had it. I don't have that in front of me to be able to answer that question.
All right. Thank you so much.
I apologize.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions of Mr. Bronskill? No? Okay, thank you. We'll take this into committee. Zahir, do you want to start?
Ask a question of colleagues and our DSP as well. I still am puzzled by the pool. Is the pool considered soft landscape?
Yes.
It is?
Yes.
Even though when one looks at definition.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of these, we've all raised it. Yeah.
I think that's always a bit of an issue. Other than that.
Okay. Anyone else have any thoughts? Peter?
I'm pretty much fine with the application as it is, except for the driveway, and maybe that seems trivial, but I don't see it as being a desirable element of the application. I think just when a streetscape becomes more paved and cars rather than open space and house, I don't think that's a positive thing. So I support the application except for variance 8. Particularly because the applicant also showed that he was willing to proceed without that.
Anyone else?
Perhaps speaking to the point that Peter has raised, and I kind of flagged that one too. You know, why the extra width, but as Mr. Bronskill seems to have indicated or has indicated, this is an existing circumstance, and transportation hasn't flagged anything either, so.
Okay, I'm not sure whether Zahir is for or against you, but I don't know.
We'll find out.
Nazella?
Yes, I've just, I'm okay with the application, but the only concern is variance number 3, which is the FSI 0.93% versus 35. It's, so yeah, it's the same application. That's my concern. It's more than twice.
I wasn't so concerned with the FSI. I think partly because it's kind of, I think the applicant did a good job describing it. It's pretty hidden away in the 3rd story, which from the street looks like a roof kind of, but I think it contains a big portion of it. So for me, I'm not so concerned about that. But
Yeah, all this way, so, I mean, I think the applicant did a reasonable job of showing and demonstrating that FSI in, there's lots of homes in this neighborhood that have similar or even greater FSI, and this neighborhood is characterized by large lots, large homes. It's not, I don't think, the massing and the size isn't out of character, I don't think, and as Peter notes, the third story is set back quite well, so it reduces the massing both from the street and from the adjacent neighbors.
Thank you for
I'm not as fussed about the driveway, but I will take everyone else's kind of views on this one. I went up and down the street, and you know, most, if not all, houses have similar driveways. It's an existing condition, so it didn't bother me as much, just because it's not inconsistent with, I think, what, if you look around, it's just, that seems to be a pretty common occurrence on this street.
I think it is, but I don't think that's necessarily a positive thing.
Yeah.
I'm saying.
But if you made it permeable, would that make you feel better? Or is more, you're more concerned about its use and the optics?
Well, yes and no, but I mean, I think if you rip it up to put in a permeable thing, I don't think that's necessarily a positive either.
Yeah.
From an environmental perspective. It's not a huge issue for me, but.
Okay. Anyone else want to weigh in on the driveway?
I think we make it conditional on a permeable paver.
Okay.
Like he offered. I think that's fair.
Okay, anyone else? Good? Okay. All right, if there's no further comments, I'll look for a motion.
I'll put forward a motion, Chair. Yeah, Paul, I think that's a good compromise. I believe the variances are minor. The variance is being requested, and I think this fits in. So I move approval of the application, subject to urban forestry condition 2, and to the condition that the driveway be constructed with permeable pavers.
Okay. Motion to approve with those conditions from Mr. Reed. Do I have seconder?
I'll second it.
Ms. West, seconds, all in favor? Okay, you have your approval, sir. Thank you. Item number 30, 307 Logan Avenue. This is an application to alter the existing 3-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear 1-story addition with a deck and a rear 2nd-story deck partially on the roof of the new 1-story addition. Committee has before it a copy plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 1 photograph of the trees on the subject property. We have an advisory report from Metrolinx. There's correspondence and support from 245 and 320, or 245 Booth and 323 Logan. There's correspondence of concern from 20 Natalie Place.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Dome.
Yes, my name is Joe Dome, 133 Torresdale Avenue, agent for the owners.
Okay. Panel, do you need a presentation or you want to go straight to questions?
No presentation.
Okay. Mr. Dome, we don't need a presentation. We've read the material. We're familiar with the application. There may be a couple questions, so why don't we, does anyone have any questions?
I don't.
There's no questions. So, Mr. Dome, we don't have any questions. Is there anything you'd like to share with the panel before we take it into committee for a decision?
Yes, I would just like to briefly note that the existing FSI is 1.15 and the addition is only 18.62 square meters. And furthermore, the attached neighbor next door at 305 Logan has an identical 1-story rear addition with a full balcony above. And the proposed addition is also situated between existing 3-story massings of neighboring dwellings at 303 to the south, 313 to the north, and both of which have rear attached garages that extend much closer to their respective rear lot lines. So it would be consistent with the direct neighbor, as well as having a lesser impact than existing neighboring dwellings. And also, in addition to the letters of support on file, both adjacent neighbors at 305 and 309 have provided signatures in support. And I'd also just clarify that that letter of interest is not really a letter of opposition. I believe it was just a few houses down in the rear. It just had to do with the laneway and respecting the existing parking in relation to the laneway.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Panel, any questions? We're good. Let's take it into committee. Who wants to take this one on?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Paul?
Yeah. Thank you for the explanation from the applicant. That does help address that FSI issue, what the proposed addition is versus what's existing. I find that the proposed variances are minor in nature. They seem to be in keeping with the kind of the neighborhood context, and they seem to be work with the overall composition of the property. So again, I find them minor in nature. I think they're desirable, and I would recommend we submit them with no conditions.
Okay, motion to approve by Mr. Gauguin, seconded.
Yes, just a friendly amendment, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, is do we also consider the Metrolinx warning clause of this?
That was an advisory.
Or it's advisory? It's advisory.
It's an advisory
Through you,
report,
Mr.
so
Chair, yeah, it's
there's no
advisory,
conditions.
so no conditions.
Okay, so then no condition, I'll second it.
Okay, motion to approve by Mr. Gauguin, seconded by Ms. West. All in favor? Okay, you have your approval. Thank you. Okay, item number 31. 287 Inglewood Drive. This is an application to construct a one-story ancillary building containing a gym and a washroom with an attached carport in the rear yard. The existing outdoor kitchen in the rear yard will be maintained and unaltered, and the existing garage in the rear yard will be demolished. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 5 photographs of the trees on the subject property, a cover letter from the agent, decision number A0892/23 TUI affecting the subject property. We have a staff report from Urban Forestry. We have correspondence and support from 285 and 289 Inglewood Drive.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online as well as 2 registered speakers in opposition for this item.
Okay. All right. Ms. Fior?
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Just in a very brief summary.
Sorry, just for the record, your full name and address, please.
Oh, yes, my apologies. I'm an agent for the owners of Roulette and Associates at 1 County Road 6 South in Tiny.
Okay.
Thank you. So yes, just in brief summary, although the building footprint and height have remained the same as the previous application, we have omitted the variance for the floor area of ancillary buildings and have significantly reduced, the ancillary lot coverage. So we've undergone a lot of effort to either omit or significantly reduce the variances that were previously before you. Myself and JJ Botchner, I believe the owner's contractor is present as well, if anyone has any questions. Thank you for your time.
Any questions before we go to the speakers? No? Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we will call up the owner at 251 Glen Rose Avenue.
Hello, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Catapano. I live at 251 Glen Rose, which borders the property in question to the north. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak, and I'll do my best to keep my concerns brief. So I want to address several concerns. Firstly, the structure exceeds the maximum allowable height by almost 1 meter. This is the most significant concern that we have and does not seem to have been altered from the previous application, despite raising these concerns previously. Also, the area still exceeds the allowable maximum, although decreased. This will significantly alter the sightline from our property in the backyard. It will significantly impact airflow through our backyard in the north to south direction. And most importantly, this will create the equivalent of a 15-foot high fence directly behind our property, as the structure doesn't come to a single peak like the current garage does, but it maintains that entire height over the front of the property. This will decrease the pleasure of our property by depriving us of the open feeling in our backyard that our neighborhood is characteristic of, and one of the reasons we purchased this home to begin with. The roof slopes only to the north, which will redirect all the water from the structure towards the two properties to the north. As it stands, there's poor water drainage as there is, and this will compound that issue. Thirdly, both myself and my neighbor, who both border this property to the north, brought these concerns up at the previous hearing, and no effort was made by the applicants to discuss our concerns or attempt to meet their goals without impact on the properties of the two neighbors to the north. The renderings of the property demonstrate a structure that appears significantly larger than the submitted plans and demonstrates the structure on the east end of the property rather than the west end, so I was hoping for clarification on that. I would like confirmation that this structure is being built an appropriate distance from the property line and not the fence line, as the fence line is presently significantly on my property, biased in that direction. Lastly, and most importantly, while the intended purpose of the structure is described as a gym, for all intensive purposes, when I look at the structure, the renderings appear to show a laneway house. Even if the intended purpose presently is a gym, given the amenities described in the structure, it's conceivable that this may become an inhabitable dwelling in the future if purchased by somebody else. This will create the appearance of a house in our backyard, which is not characteristic of our neighborhood, and as mentioned previously, will significantly detract from the natural beauty of our neighborhood and trees which we currently enjoy in our backyard. While we own the property on which we live, we acknowledge that the air above the property is a shared space, which is why these rules exist. If this is intended to be a gym, their goals should be attainable without altering the rules for the allowable maximal height, as I haven't heard a compelling reason as why it's required to be that height. It seems to me that the reason for this is the aesthetics from their property, but it would significantly distract from the aesthetics from our property behind them, as it seems to be for a line of windows which should be able to be incorporated into a lower roof if needed for light. Thank you very much for the opportunity to express my concerns.
Thank you. So you opposed this when it was before the committee previously?
I did. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend the meeting because I was out of town, but I did submit a letter.
Has there been any outreach discussion with you by the applicant since that time?
Neither to myself or my neighbor, although I don't want to speak for him, but I believe he's also registered to speak.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Panel, any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we'll hear from the owner at 249 Glenrose Avenue.
Mr. Metzger.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you very much for your time today ahead of the committee. This is my second appearance before the committee on this matter. So as background, I live in 249 Glenrose Avenue, which is directly north of 287 Inglewood's backyard, and share a border with Joseph, who just spoke. We both share the same concerns that this structure is too large and does not fit within our neighborhood. We are active users of our backyard with two young children, and a structure that is almost 16 feet high does not fit within our neighborhood. And I think it will greatly detract from our property, and it also will create water issues as the roof is downward sloping towards our property. And because of we face south, there's a great deal of shading. So there's going to be a whole bunch of water created that will roll onto our property with nowhere to go. And then we are really disappointed by this application, just because actually, in my mind, there's no changes whatsoever, and there was no outreach prior to this meeting or the meeting before. We just got the City of Toronto notification. So effectively, what the homeowners have done, they've removed a garage and replaced it with a carport. This is it, so they've removed a building, but they're leaving the hardscaping, and there's no additional softscaping. So really, in my mind, this structure is 94.5 square meters, which is much larger than the 60 square meters that's permitted. The original application stated 17.8% greater than the coverage proposed, so this one says 11. Again, this is because they just removed a carport and are calling it something else that is not part of the building. So I think it's kind of misleading that this application has been done, and it does not address any of our concerns about the height and the size, and also, you know, the usage. I don't really see a purpose for having such a large structure when you could achieve similar goals by doing an addition on your house, which is more common and would actually take up less space on your property. So those are all my kind of comments, and I thank you very much for your time to hear my concerns.
Thank you very much. Panel, any questions of the speaker? Okay. We
Through you, Mr. Chair, we can go back to the agent.
Thank you. Ms. Fior?
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I just would like to address some of those concerns said by the two homeowners there. So yes, we did replace the enclosed garage portion with a carport instead. That was just to allow for, you know, if there was a longer vehicle being parked in there. The use of this is for the parking of a vehicle as well as a gym, as indicated on the plans. We did significantly reduce the ancillary. Excuse me, I'm very sorry. We did significantly reduce the ancillary footprint by totally omitting the decks that were in the previous application. So now that's just going to be all landscaping material. So we did make many reductions, although the height is still the same. And I think the best thing is for the owner's contractor to speak to the actual design of it, you know, including the windows shown on the front elevation there, and then the roof slope. Other than that, we feel that we did make a lot of effort reducing these variances. And I believe that's it for now. Oh, I wanted to address also, sorry, the first homeowner that spoke was just mentioning that on the renderings, it shows the building in the east side of the property. It actually is in the west side of the property as per the renderings. So just wanted to address that there. Thanks so much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Just to follow up on what we heard from the two previous speakers, had you or your client reached out and had any discussions with these or other neighbors about your application?
To be honest, we have not here at Ouellette. I'm not 100% sure, and I cannot speak for the owners. We were not made aware whether the owners reached out or not.
Panel, any questions? Is it here?
Just a couple of quickies. Your height request variance number 1 is 4.81. Maximum allowed is 4 meters. What's the height of your proposed structure at the rear, at the rear of that building? Is the 4.81 at the front end of that structure, and what's the height at the rear end? Because it's a very sloping roof.
Yes.
I tried looking, but I don't know if I actually was able to see it accurately or
not. So at the rear, to the grade line, we are at 3.38 meters.
Sorry, 3.3 meters?
3.38 meters, yes.
Okay, and the 4.81, is that the measurement up at the front end?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else here?
Thanks. I'm just trying to understand how this, well, a couple things. First of all, how the building works, because there's the door from the front facing the main building, and then there's a door from the side, and then there's a washroom in between. So inside, the washroom is there and has a roof on it, and then the clear story lights or windows that are facing the house, that I'm assuming those are open to the larger area in behind. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and there's some renderings included in the package that show a raised stone terrace, I guess, to the right-hand side of the site. Are those now removed? Is that removed?
So the raised stone terrace is just to give an idea of the landscaping that's proposed. Existing, it is grass area, but that's just landscaping that would be proposed in the future. It was just to kind of show how we removed all the decking that was in the previous plans for the previous application, and just proposing landscaping materials right now.
Okay, but if that were to happen, that's not shown on the site plan. And if that were to be shown on the site plan, I'm assuming there would be significant soft yard landscaping variances. Can you talk to that, please?
We weren't planning on going for any variances. We weren't planning on reducing too much of the softscaping. It was just in the renderings, just as I said, just purely to show that we omitted the decks, bringing down that ancillary lot coverage. So not too sure what's planned really for the hardscaping in the future. So the renderings were just to give an idea.
All right, thanks.
Okay, just one question. So you're permitted 4 meters. You're seeking an additional almost a meter. I just wonder why the structure couldn't be constructed in a way that was at 4 meters. None of us were sitting on the panel that was here in the fall, so we don't really know what the discussion was about. But the height was part of those discussions when this was refused. So I guess I just wonder if and why there isn't a proposal that you could manage to keep the height at 4 meters.
We wanted to maintain the overall design of the building with the monoslope. So we, complying with the 4 meters, it wouldn't work. So that's why we maintained that. And it was just mainly for the design, and then all of the elevations to look as such. But I believe through you, Mr. Chair, is the owner's contractor, JJ Botchner, present? Because he could probably speak a little bit better to that portion there of the application.
Are you here? Oh, you're here. Come on up.
There we go.
If you could just give us your name and address, please. And is the red light turned on?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Hi there. My name's Joshua Bachner. My address is 1121 Steeles Avenue West, and I'm the contractor for this project. Definitely, like when we were here in the fall, we heard the concerns of the other homeowner who was speaking with us via phone today. His biggest concern originally was not, I would say there was not a lot of emphasis on the height the last time we were here. It was really more so on the keeping the area green. It was a lot to do with the deck. It was a lot to do with other parts. Like there was not so much focus on the height, which is why when I went back with the homeowners and we were redesigning and scaling down, and we removed the outdoor kitchen permit, like we really scaled down the project significantly. It wasn't the height part was not discussed so much here. I focused a lot more on what he had originally said, which was to keep it more green, to like the outdoor kitchen part, and to reduce all the hardscaping and the decks, which is what his big part was, that we were impacting the nature and the environment. And that was like something he spoke to several times last time. And as he was talking about like that kind of like hardscaped area in the back, that's all of that is just visual, but I would say that that front piece where you see the table in the visualizer, that's already hardscaped right now. So we're not actually increasing that hardscape footprint that's just outside of the house where the table is. It's staying exactly the same. So in the visual, you're seeing stuff that is already there, and plus the new garage area. There is a door to, I believe you were asking like why there's like a door to the front and a door to the side. It's because we do plan on adding like kind of like a fence to separate so people can't get into the backyard. There's already a gate between the house and the other neighbor's fence, but the neighbor would like to just like the homeowner would like to just drive directly to the back versus having to open the gate, and so he'd like to add the gate on the other side. So essentially, if you're in the backyard, you can enter the garage through that side door, but we don't plan on removing too much of the grass because the owners have 2 dogs, and the backyard's kind of their bathroom while they're at work. So we can't remove too much of the grass. It's going to stay as green as possible because they're 2 very large dogs, and we'd like to keep it green with the grass and everything. In terms of the distance from the other homes, if you actually look at the site plan, the structure is further from the fence than the current garage. So you're not going to get that overcast like what he's saying. If you actually stood there all day long on that structure, there's not going to be significant shadow that's going to overcast into their yard. So that's not, to me, a valid reason for the structure not to be built. Additionally, on his street alone, there's other structures in similar size, if not larger, being built. So this isn't something that is unusual in the area. It's actually happening right now, and ours is actually nowhere near the grandness of some of them. And actually, this garage that we're building, it's lower in height to their next door neighbor. So that piece of it doesn't really make sense to me, because I can drive up and down the street and I can point out some of those structures. So you can see them actually like from the street. So it's because these homes are older. They don't, the space inside is sometimes, it's very expensive to change or switch, or because of the age of the homes and what you can do, and they really just want, I guess, a place to keep like camping equipment, a place to do like a Peloton bike, a treadmill with like a TV in front, and then like that's pretty much it. It's not anything too complicated. It's just creating more space in an area. And this is a pretty large family. This is a father, a mother, and 3 children. It's not a small family. Okay. They have a real reason to want this space, and they're very active in sports and all that kind of stuff. They do need the space, and yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your time is up, sorry. Any further questions?
One comment about the landscape. So the landscape, it should be calculated. That's based upon the rendering only, because the site plan doesn't show it. There's a lot of hardscape potentially proposed that would make the green, the landscape portion not compliant. just based upon a visual look. The whole driveway is hardscape, the existing patio is hardscape. Now there's a new hardscape piece to the, I'm guessing to the east of the new building. So the amount of actual grass is getting reduced significantly. I know that's not a variance that's being asked for here, but I think there's a significant reduction of grass space, and that you run the risk of not being compliant on that. And it should have been included in this application, at least for your own sake. So.
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is based on a zoning waiver. So if there are missing variances, they'll be back to Committee of Adjustment.
Okay. It'll get caught at the next stage.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions of the agent? Okay, let's go into committee. Who wants to start? So here?
Some conversation first, if I may, some observation. Chair, we've got basically two variances in front of us. One of the ones which the two folks from the neighbors to the rear commented about was height, the structure itself. I do note that I believe, if I'm correct, the structure will be set back from the rear property line by about 2.3 meters, if I'm not mistaken. That entire area, which used to be garage, part of it which was garage, is going to be soft landscaped. So I think that'll certainly mitigate with the increased hardscape that we see in the rendering. I believe on the, is it the south side? Sorry, no, it would be the west side. There's another area. The structure will be set back again, and I can't quite see the distance. It looks like 1.9 meters, if I'm not mistaken. That is also going to be soft landscaped. I'm quite satisfied with the fact that the rear of the structure meets the requirement 4 meters. It's the front. The front meaning, I believe it's the south side. But I also note in the rendering that there are a couple of large windows there. So the idea, presumably the idea is to let light into the space that will be used as a gym. So I don't have any concerns with the actual proposed structure. And there are two variances, and I don't have a concern with the variances as such.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Peter?
Yeah, I agree, Zahir. I think looking at the variances themselves, I think they are minor. I think part of the reason for this extended discussion is the renderings that have been shown, and the renderings showing different things than the site plan. So I think for me, the renderings had some issues in terms of the additional hardscape. And so I would recommend that we tie it to the site plan to ensure that the landscaping situation is retained.
I think that's a good suggestion. I initially was concerned about the height as well, but it is a sloping shed roof towards the back, and so I don't think the visual. I mean, if it was a flat roof right across, it would have, I think, a different massing kind of profile, and I do think that this one is mitigated a little bit by the design of the roof and the slope associated with that. I would, if we decide to approve this, I would just, make the applicant and agent aware of the concern that we had around the soft landscaping and the renderings seemingly showing something which isn't necessarily in the site plan, and that if as you go through that process, you would have to demonstrate that you meet the requirements for soft landscaping. All right, can I get a motion? So here?
I'll certainly go forward with this. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move a motion to approve this application as is. The only conditions that I think would like that could be tied to this is forestry number 2, and that we tie it to the site plan.
Okay. Okay, motion by Mr. Byatt to approve, subject to forestry number 2, seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you. Okay, item number 32. 21 Elderwood Drive. This is an application to construct a new 3-story detached dwelling with an integral garage, a front covered porch, and a rear ground floor covered and uncovered decks. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Decision number A0518/11TEY affecting the subject property, an arborist report from Bright Leaf, presentation materials from the agent, and a staff report from Urban Forestry.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Great, thank you.
Hey, you've been unmuted.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of committee. My name is Tave Rook. I am the planner for the owners of the property, and I'm at 18 Yonge Street.
Okay. If you could give us a short presentation, please, sir. And just if you could ask you just speak up a little bit. We're having difficulty hearing you.
Sir. Sure. There are 6 variances before you to facilitate the construction of a 3-story single detached dwelling on the subject site. There is variances related to building length, FSI, side yard setbacks to the building and to the rear deck, in addition to front and rear yard setbacks. If you could pull up the presentation materials that I had submitted, we could go through the first slide. That represents FSIs in the area, and the subject site is outlined in red. The green properties outlined are properties that are above 0.8. And the reason I chose 0.8 in terms of the comparables in the area, and there are examples of FSIs as high as 1 times in the area, but the reason I chose 0.8 is because the subject proposal is a dwelling which is by and large part consistent with the zoning bylaw in terms of overall height and sidewall main wall heights. So it's a building that is contained within the bylaw permissions of building height. And you'll note that the 3rd story is contained within the proposed roof line, which causes the FSI to increase to 1.01. If that roof line was just a typical attic space, the FSI goes down to 0.83, which is very comparable in terms of what exists in the area and what's been approved in the area. And you'll also note from a streetscape perspective, the way in which this proposal presents to the street is more than consistent because it does maintain the height requirements and in terms of massing and any other aspects of the proposal as it relates to the streetscape. For example, if you go to the next slide, you'll see that there are setback requirements for side yards. Those variances are being sought. We're seeking 1.2 meters on both east and west sides. And the properties that have been highlighted in purple represent those properties that do not require the minimum 1.5 meter requirements on either side or on a single side. You'll note that if you go to the next slide, the existing dwelling itself is outlined in red and is actually closer to the side lot lines on either side. And the new proposal actually scales back the setback or increases the setback on both the east and side lot lines to 1.2 meters, whereas before it was 0.9 of a meter. So it's approximately 0.3 meters further away from the side yard setbacks. And you'll also note on 28, which is the house to the left, sorry, 19, which is the house to the left, you'll note that the side yard setback also doesn't comply at 1.3 meters in terms of side yard setbacks. There's also variances related to the front yard setback, and that can be described as the small green sliver at the bottom of the building. You'll note that if you could zoom in, basically right above the covered porch, there's a small green sliver. That's the extent of the 0.3 meter setback encroachment. Majority of the building itself is consistent with the 7.3 meter requirement. And you also note that this front yard setback and the manner in which the building has been, if the bottom, if you go scroll down, there it is, just above the covered porch, that's the extent of the 0.3 encroachment. But the building itself, in terms of consistency with the adjacent dwellings on either side and on the street as well, is consistent with the front yard setback. Now, finally, there is a building length and rear yard setback variance. And I'll deal with the rear yard setback variance, and that's somewhat of I'll call it a technical nature. Sometimes committee doesn't like when I say that, but The reason being the measurement to the rear yard setback or to rear lot line is because the deck is excavated underneath. And as a result of that, the zoning bylaw defines it as the part of the structure and requires the setback measurements to be measured to the edge of the deck, which results in the 5.916 meter requirement proposal. But you'll note that the majority of the house is set back approximately 11 meters. There is a small green portion, which is the portion that exceeds the 17-meter mark, length requirement, and that's a one-story bump-out element at the center of the house, which is set back appropriately on either side to 23 and 19 Elderwood Drive. And you'll also note that there's no correspondence or speakers by either of the neighbors or any neighbors for that matter with regards to this application. We did discuss it with planning staff. They have no concerns by the fact that they have not written a report. We understand there is forestry comments and conditions 1 and 2, which are typical and satisfactory. But if there's any other questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Panel, any questions? Seeing none. Thank you, sir. That was a helpful presentation. Let's take this into committee. Anyone want to start? Nazila?
Through you, Mr. Chair. I originally had concern about variance 6, the rear, the setback from the back, 5.92, but I've been satisfied by the explanation that the agent provided that it's due to covered deck excavation. And looking at the other variants, the other 5, I think it's all minor to my eyes.
Do you want to move a motion?
Yes, if there is no other question from my colleague, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application subjected to condition number 1 and 2, urban forestry.
Okay. Ms. West moves approval of this application subject to forestry 1 and 2. Can I get a seconder? Mr. Gogan, all in favor? You have your approval. Thank you, sir. Okay, our final item for today's agenda.
2 more.
Second last item for today's agenda. I think that's what I meant. Nice recovery. This is item number 33, 1086 Queen Street West. This is an application to alter the existing 3-story mixed-use building by constructing a rear outdoor patio for the use of the existing ground floor restaurant. Committee has before it a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a report from the Director of Community Planning, and correspondence and opposition from the resident of 6 Fenning Street.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lee.
Yes, hello, good afternoon. Edward Lee, representing the owners. 6 Argyle Street is my address.
Okay, so this is a patio, you're building a patio in the rear of an existing restaurant or proposed restaurant?
Yes, correct.
And you've seen planning's conditions?
Yes, I proactively reached out to planning staff about this application. I was the agent for a patio next door as well, which planning staff supported. So I was not surprised by their conditions and accept all of the conditions that are in the planning report.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Panel, do you need a presentation on this one? I think with those conditions, it's fairly straightforward. All right, sir, we don't need a presentation. We've read the material. We're comfortable with the application, and we understand planning's conditions. Is there anything you'd like to share with us before we take it into committee for a decision?
Nope, that's everything.
Okay, thank you. We have a late breaking question.
Have you had any conversations with the neighbor immediately behind the patio that's most immediately affected?
Well, so
his is the only, or that neighbor's is the only opposition that we have, correspondence in opposition.
yes, I mean, I can speak to the concerns of that neighbor's address is actually on Fennings, so it's not the immediate neighbor behind. But when we went through the committee for the next door at 1084, the neighbor immediately behind did express some concerns, but ultimately the planning staff report seemed to appease their concerns. I was expecting that maybe the owner of 111 Dovercourt would call in, but I think after having lived with the patio at 1084, I believe their concerns about noise maybe didn't extend to our application. Our condition is actually better than next door because there's an existing garage structure that's 10 feet tall that separates the laneway from the patio. So that will help tremendously with mitigating sound from this establishment. A lot of the neighbors, I think, have concerns about the way that Bar Poet at the corner of Dovercourt and Queen Street operate. They have a Cafe TO sidewalk patio and a curb lane patio. They have amplified sound on the walls as well, which is not allowed. So they put a bad name to all the businesses in this intersection, unfortunately. But this condition being somewhat of a courtyard condition, I believe will probably be the most isolated of all of the establishments in this block.
Thank you very much.
It's not related to your variance, but I'm just curious, that garage structure, is that part of the amenity space, or is that just used for storage?
It's just used for storage.
Okay.
It's not going to be used for any amenities.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any further questions? Okay, let's go into committee. Look for a motion. Peter?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I think if you can't have a patio on Queen West at Dovercourt, I don't know where you can. I think with the community planning conditions, this is a very reasonable request, and I think the existing garage in the back does go. I think that'll help retain some of the noise that will come with this. So I think this is fully supportable. I move approval subject to community planning's 4 conditions.
It's great. Mr. Reid moves approval, seconded by Mr. Byatt. All in favor? You have your approval, sir. We now move to the final item of the day. This is 10 CAVELL Avenue. This is an application to alter the existing 3-story detached dwelling by constructing a front 1-story addition with a green roof above, front bay windows, a front ground floor planter, and a west side entrance with a canopy. Committee has before it a copy of plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 3 photographs of trees on the subject property, covering letter from the agent, decision numbers A0427/07TEY and A0146/16TEY affecting the subject property. We have a advisory memo from Metrolinx.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have the agent online, no registered speakers for this item.
Great, thank you. Mr. Galbraith.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Full name and address, please.
Sean Galbraith, planner here on behalf of the application, 18 King Street East, Unit 1400.
Thanks so much for waiting. Hang on a second. No panel, do we need a presentation on this one?
No.
Mr. Galbraith, we don't really need a presentation. It seems a very straightforward application.
I think so too.
Yeah, we've read the material. We're familiar with the application. Is there anything you want to share with us before we take it into committee?
No, I think it's a pretty straightforward application, sort of mimics an enclosed porch, which is very common on the street.
Yeah, okay, thank you. All right, let's go into committee. Does anyone want to make a motion on this one? Ms. West?
To you, Mr. Chair, I agree. This is a very straightforward application. Therefore, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with no condition. Metrolinx is also just advisory.
Yep.
No other condition.
Okay, motion to approve by Ms. West. Do I have a seconder? Mr. Gogan? All in favor? You have your approval, sir. Thank you for waiting around. All right, that is the last item. We are adjourned at 5:14. Thank you all. Thank you, everyone. Great job. Thank you, staff. Another excellent job.
Thank you, members.